Hi, everybody. So here we are, another live message from Spirit. And long before I got on this morning, even yesterday, Spirit was really talking to me about quite a few things, and there's definitely an overarching theme there. And so I was hesitant to just jump on and talk about that theme because I was like, oh, maybe that's my active mind wanting to kind of put together a plan and formulate, something that feels like a certainty that I'm going to be able to talk about rather than actually channel. And so it's really interesting because as I sat with it before I got on, now they're saying, no, this was not of your conscious mind that you were wanting to repeat the message that I got yesterday, which I had posted like a really short reel on all my social platforms and here in YouTube that kind of hinted at it, which was around this idea of, um, we've been so conditioned and programmed to believe that our wants and desires, excuse me, that those dreams that we have for ourselves are not um are not good, or that they're not deserving, or that it means that we're ungrateful or selfish or greedy or all kinds of other negative things that we've put onto ourselves. And yet, what would it look like? What would it mean if we, in fact, started to view the things that we kind of dream about or the things that we desire that naggingly we want for ourselves, but we're afraid to admit, or we feel bad about admitting? We think it's wrong to say we want that, that we shouldn't want that, because we already have so much, right? And they're saying to me, what if you just allowed yourself to have a childlike mind? And I know I've talked about this before. I think maybe even on a message from Spirit Sunday, Sundays, whatever the heck I call this, whatever. I think maybe I've talked about it here before, but they're saying to me now, like, this is what Jesus meant when he said about being like the little children. It wasn't meant that, sorry, they're giving me multiple things here. Um, and so I'm saying back to them in my mind, like, just one thing at a time, please hang on. Um, so they're saying what he really meant by that was not that we were to resign ourselves to him, to God, to the greater universe as our parent. That's one of the things they're saying to me. And even Jesus kind of steps in a little bit. And he's like, they bastardize that. Um, we were never to be submissive in a parent-child role, despite what so much of organized religion has really laid heavy into. They're saying to me so much of that really was just to be able to give priests and religious leaders, religious authorities, um, control over us, because that's how we parented children for generations and millennia, really. In that we were trying to control them, we were using power and authority over them. This is what the idea of abuse is, they're saying. This is where, as horrific as it is, this is where physical child abuse comes from, sexual abuse of children or of anyone. It's all about that person who is the perpetrator trying to gain a sense of power by exerting effort over others. And we have taken that same very twisted, very inaccurate sense of what power is and power dynamic is, and have put that towards religion and what God's source spirit is. And they're saying that was never the intention. It was never the intention for us to feel like we needed to be, properly behaving, listening, doing as we were told in that kind of manner, in a manner they're saying of fear. Um, that when Jesus and other religious prophets, leaders have talked about this child mind. I don't know this to be fact, but they're saying even like Buddha talks about this. Again, that's not knowledge. So if that's wrong, shoot me. No, I'm just kidding. Don't hold me to that. There there's it's about being able to have a mind that is free of the programming, of the conditioning. That's what it means to come in with a child's mind. That's what it means to be like the little children, right? And so when we go back to this whole idea where they brought me in about that they gave me yesterday around understanding that our desires, our wants, the things that we dream about, whether we allow ourselves to accept it or have it or own it, or we feel embarrassed or shame or guilt around them, they still exist. And those things are really breadcrumbs to what the divine, what God sees as your highest potential and what they want to give you. See, those ideas were only implanted in us not out of a place of fear. When you have these things and your logical mind is saying to you, there's no reason I need this, right? There's I have so much to be grateful for. I already have all these things. I've already accomplished all this stuff. Not everyone is meant to do great things or to be XYZ. Um Whatever that looks like for you, whatever that want, desire, dream looks like for you, when our rational mind says there's no reason for it, that's all the more indication to you that this is actually, in fact, implanted in you from divine source, from God, for those that prefer that language. And if you allow yourself to shift into a place of a new mind, of a fresh, clean mind, one that doesn't put labels and restrictions and guilt and shame and fear onto these ideas that come into us, because that's really what dreams and desires and wants actually are. They're their ideas of what actually is possible for us, of what wants to be given to us. And so, there's so many people that feel this deep level of discontent and dissatisfaction around their lives. And so, some people are going to listen to this and they're going to think, because they're telling me this, they're going to think, like, why would source ever want you to want something materialistic? Why would they want you to like want $20 million, right? Well, it's because it's about your capacity, it's about your potential, it's about what they want to give you. And also, they're saying that there are so many people, the ones that are most likely denying themselves the gifts, the abundance, the accomplishments, the experiences of these things that seem desirous and excessive and like beyond what we need. It's those people that reject those things in themselves, in their thoughts, in their it's really divine inspiration. Um, with guilt and shame and fear, you are the ones that are most meant to actually embody them because you'll do the right things with them. You'll be a testimony and an example of what it can mean to live in alignment. So, if it's the sports car, if it's the wanting to be a professional athlete, I don't know, whatever it is for you that you have denied and given yourselves the guilt, shame, and fear story around, because they keep saying about guilt, fame, shame, and fear. These are the three things that they consider to actually be sins of the spirit, sins of your divine nature. This is actually where you move against who you were created to be. They say that though sins, as we use it in human terms, only again based on conditioning and programming that has come from centuries and centuries of the idea that sin is a mortal soulful thing that's going to get you straight to hell and separated from God's source forever. And they say it does create separation, but not because you are being judged or condemned or sentenced to separation in any way, but because it means that you see yourself as separate from source, as less than worthy of source and your divine nature. And so that's where the sin comes into place. They're saying, I have no idea what the what the Latin origin or the origin meaning of the word sin is, but they're saying we've not used it properly, that it becomes this thing where we have sin to them just means separation from your divine nature, separation from source, separation from that full connection that we always have and is always present. And so it's not real, they're saying, just like the ideas are not unaccessible to you, your wants and desires and dreams are not inaccessible to you, and they are not in excess. It is it is truly part of their plan. And so they're saying that all of this message, what I brought through yesterday in the little tiny reel, they are bringing through for me to share with everyone today is there are so many people that are asking for how do things change? How do I feel less discord with the world around me? How do I feel less discontent? Um, Again, like a separation of self, of fulfillment, of peace, of joy. How do I get past this? Is this really all that there is for me to experience in this life and in my lifetime here now? And so they're saying that the reality of the situation is that you want relief from all of this. You want to know how to change things, and yet they give you the ideas, the path, the way, the breadcrumbs is your wants, desires, and dreams. And so by denying that part of yourself, by denying what is divine information coming into you that is only assigned to you specifically, you are now perpetuating where that disconnect is, which is really what discontent is. Disconnect is where the idea of feeling separated from your sense of peace, fulfillment, and joy, it's the freedom piece. Because in my mind, I was just saying to them, this is why you always have me talking about like trying to help people find their way back to a sense of fulfillment, peace, and joy. Um, and they were saying yes, that is the true sense of freedom. That's what, for me specifically, they like me to kind of focus on those three emotions, um, in so much of what I do, and who I want to be able to aid and facilitate in their reconnection back to divine spirit, is because that's the path to an internal freedom. That's the path to an external freedom. Freedom is not, and they were saying this to me last night, freedom is not this idea that here in America in particular we hold on to, is like, freedom isn't free and we have to fight for it, and it means that we're supposed to have these choices around how we live our lives, and what we choose to believe, and how we choose to speak, and how we choose to think. And I know all of that feels very under attack to some people in a lot of ways right now. That's not my intention, and that's not Spirit's intention of bringing that up. But they're saying we do that to ourselves all the time. Our programming and conditioning, and the way that our parents raised us and our families surrounded us, and even coworkers and friends and siblings in our lives, try and impress upon the way that we're supposed to think, and the way that we're supposed to act, and the way that we're supposed to be living our lives, and things you should be doing, is impeding our freedom. It is impeding our internal, individual, personal sense of freedom. And that is why people feel so discontented in their lives, maybe in some degree now more than ever, despite whatever external accomplishments or successes or wealth or things that they might be having, the lifestyle that they might be living, the ways that we're supposed to be grateful and feel blessed, doesn't always feel freeing. It doesn't always feel like freedom. It can feel very heavy, and like there's a lot of responsibility and burden, and a lot of should. That's the word that they keep using. It's the word that I use a lot. They give it to me a lot because that's the internal thing. And so as I wrap this up for us today, um, they're leaving me with the direction, and this is not something that, certainly I've used this a lot of times and I mention it often enough, is listen in your brain when you're telling yourself I should or shouldn't be doing something. Anytime, and this isn't new, people in personal growth, woo woo, whatever, like this has been around for a long time, around, stop shooting yourself on yourself, right? Like, but they're reminding us to really use that as a tool. Pay attention to when you all of a sudden hear yourself saying, I should or shouldn't do this. It's a sense of obligation that is coming from programming. It is taking you away from your sense of fulfillment, peace, and joy. It is limiting your freedom. It is only leading to discontent, which creates more and more separation. And have that as a practice this week. Pay attention to that. And also pay attention to, they're actually saying, like, maybe keep a little notebook, keep a little journal. When you have these kinds of wants, desires, wishes, not as a way of manifesting it, just write it down. Write it down so that you can see how often spirit is actually reaching out to you and giving you ideas all the time. The more that we are in a space where we're acknowledging this information, this idea that is coming to us from spirit, the more that we're acknowledging the connection, the more you will start to train yourself and learn to be able to recognize and trust the other ways that the information is being given to you for guidance to help bring you back into a place of being in deep connection so that you can find your way back to a sense of contentment, a sense of fulfillment and peace and joy in your life. That's what it brings you. It's freedom so much bigger than the freedom that politics and government talk about. I can't even explain to you the expansiveness of it. It will change your life. It will bring you all these new things that I just got chills when I said that so many of you desperately and deeply want. And so I hope that this was helpful to you. I hope that you are able to incorporate some of this into your life, at least focus on it for this week. The longer you focus on it, the better it will be. Trust me. But thank you so much for joining. As always, don't forget to comment, like, and share this video if it was helpful to you, if you think it's going to be helpful to somebody else. And don't be afraid to reach out and message me with questions or things that you want me to talk about in any of my content. All right, everyone. Have a great week.